Like good stewards of the manifold grace of God, serve one another with whatever gift each of you has received. It was the halfway point in our work on the Fall Generosity Appeal. Our team had written all the communications, the videos were almost complete, and the plans for follow-up were underway when someone asked, "What's a manifold?" We had spent months talking about that passage from 1 Peter where it says, "We are stewards of God's manifold grace." We had defined the word stewards. Stewards are managers who care for the master's property. And we defined grace. Grace is God's unearned acceptance and love given as a gift. But we hadn't discussed manifold. A manifold is an IV that administers fluids to a single access point, the nurse on the team said. A car has two manifolds, someone else said. It conveys air from the carburetor to the cylinders, and another one carries the gases to the exhaust pipe. That person used to work for Wagner Subaru. I needed to look it up to repeat those definitions and to find out what the dictionary actually says. The overall definition of manifold is many and various. So, if we are stewards of God's manifold grace, as St. Peter says in our theme passage, that means we are stewards who are managing and responsible for the many and various ways that God has loved, gifted, and blessed us. That got me thinking. That got me thinking about the manifold grace that I have received here at Epiphany. The many and various ways that God has loved, welcomed, gifted, and blessed me as your pastor. It all started on a September evening 4 years ago on a 2-hour Zoom call with the call committee of Epiphany. They asked me all kinds of questions, and I gave them my most honest and complete answers, and they were still interested. And there was this feeling. It was a little magical. Am I right, Verity? We felt something. And though I thought, oh, surely this isn't going to go through, each step of the way, the doors of the call process kept on opening. And I realized that I needed to trust the path. I needed to trust God. It wasn't easy to do, to be honest. I was living in Connecticut, and I'd been there for 29 years, all my adult life. All my friends and professional connections were there. I'd raised my children there. But my aging parents lived here in Ohio, and they needed me. God's manifold grace gave me the opportunity to care for my parents at this critical stage in their lives, and the incredible blessing of a new call here at Epiphany, where I was welcomed and embraced as your pastor. But that's not where the blessing stopped. I have experienced God's grace through you. A year into my call here at Epiphany, my dad died after a long struggle with cancer. My staff covered for me for the better part of 2 weeks while I spent my dad's last days with him in Columbus, and while we prepared for the funeral and welcoming all the family and friends that came into town for that occasion. I received a stack of sympathy cards 5 inches thick from all of you, and prayers and reach outs and emails. Your love, your prayer, and your presence supported me then and have since supported me through personal struggles, lawsuits, and the challenging ongoing work of retooling a ministry to be vibrant for a new era. Once I start looking for God's blessing, I see it everywhere. God's manifold grace has been shown to me in the generosity and courage of members who have made ministry work, even when we didn't have a full-time pastor. Second one, that is, for 3 years. Even when we didn't have a property manager or a praise band director for the better part of 2 years. People stepped up, rolled up their sleeves to cover those vacancies among our staff as volunteers. Ministry leaders have restarted ministries and launched new ones. They've led strategic planning and given us inspirational stories of generous giving and defended our church. And I have been supported by all kinds of pastors, member pastors who preach. Pastor Barry, Pastor Heidi, Pastor Bob Abrams from the Southern Ohio Synod. Believe me, I had him on the phone a number of times. My right hand, Director of Operations, Kathy Whitehead, and all of my staff. The council and its leadership, and now Pastor Corey. And do you know what? These many and various people with their many and various gifts were not only supporting me, they're supporting all of us. Their faithfulness, their creative thinking, their problem solving was God supporting all of us. God has blessed us with manifold gifts of grace and manifold opportunities to live out our mission, to grow in faith, build thriving community, and transform lives through Christ's love. That mission is more important now than ever because people are hurting. Our church office is inundated with phone calls for help. People in our church are furloughed. The pantry workers are doing their darndest and working extra to fulfill all those orders that they're receiving from social workers. And yet, you all are stepping up. In times of uncertainty, you are still generously giving. You are still generously volunteering. You are generous in your prayers for this ministry, for me and for all of us. You are offering what you have been given so that we can grow in our capacity to love Jesus by serving others. You are doing what St. Peter says in his letter, serving one another with whatever gift you have been given. As I think back to that discussion about the definition of manifolds, I realize there's something all of those meanings have in common. They all have to do with the one and the many. One source turned in many directions or many streams coming together into one. It seems to me that is what we are doing when we steward God's manifold grace. We share the gifts of our one God, and they multiply and they go all over the place. And the manyest various people at Epiphany and their manyest various gifts come together into one abundant stream of blessing and new life. Today is Generosity Sunday, the culmination of our fall appeal, and the day that we celebrate the generosity of God and how we can respond generously to God's gifts to us with our time, talent, and treasure. Let us reflect together on the gifts of God's grace to each one of us here at Epiphany, how we have been welcomed, loved, gifted, and blessed. Let us give thanks for God's gifts of faith, community, and meaning that we find here. And let us steward those gifts. Let us nurture them so that God's love and gifting and blessing is available to others as it has been to us. Let us celebrate God's manifold grace and share it with others. Amen.